So that is a massive improvement if you're considering this GPU. Welcome to the show. Today we've pretty much doubled the performance of our base Mac Pro. We've put in a Vega 64 GPU in this guide. We're going to show you exactly how I did that, all the mistakes I made, and how I got it right in the end. We're going to show you it working in Windows, Mac, the performance. And speaking of the performance, let me just get that out of the way so I don't waste your time. Final Cut Pro, let's start with that one. It does twice as many rendering effects in real time. So we've gone from 6 film grains being rendered in real time to 12, doubled the performance. Exporting times also improved in the heaviest of heavy projects by around 15%. Not as much as twice, but when you're doing the scrubbing on the timeline, that's where you want the performance, and that's what you get with this card. In Geekbench, okay, we went from 40,000 points with the 580X. We went all the way to 53,000, and that isn't as much as the Vega 2. You get a lot more of a score on Geekbench and Mac graphics cards, the one inside the iMac Pro, etc., etc. But 53,000 is higher than the Radeon VII. And over in Windows, if you just boot the system up into Windows, it's gonna use the Vega 64 as a software renderer, so it's gonna run really slow. I downloaded the drivers from bootcampdrivers.com, and I just went into Device Manager, didn't install anything. I just hit update and install the drivers via the search functionality, and it just worked out of the box. And we went from a 3D Mark score in the 4000s, went all the way to the 7000s. So we pretty much doubled the performance of this beast with a simple 500 Australian dollar upgrade. It'll be cheaper, probably in your country. Australian dollars is a bit, overpriced over here. And I say that's a really good value, considering the only upgrade you can currently get with a Mac Pro from Apple is the 4,000 Australian dollar Vega 2. So guys, I'm going to show you exactly how to upgrade this behemoth. You're going to need one of these kits. This is the Belkin Mini 8-pin to 8-pin connectors. It has several of these in there, so potentially you can put in a good amount of GPUs in there, at least 2. So let's get in there and let's make this Mac Pro great again. Okay, so have right here the beefy GPU, have right here the big beefy Mac Pro, but there's something we also need, and that is one of these little bad boys. Now this is the Belkin AUX power cable kit for the Mac Pro. Okay, so we get a bunch of languages here, instructions telling you what is safe and what is not. And look at this, you get PCIe aux power, you get an 8-pin to a 6-pin, an 8-pin to an 8-pin, 8-pin to an 8-pin, an 8-pin to another 6+ pin. A lot of 8 pins over here. So I'm going to be needing the 2 8-pins, because this is what my GPU requires. So what you get is, this is a mini 8-pin connector to a big normal size 6+2, which makes 8. And we're gonna need 2 of them. Wayo! Now it's time to dethrone the Mac Pro. And it should, a lot of effort. Beautiful internals. Oh, gorgeous piece of kit. Just gonna flip it over to its base. Very beautiful, nice and clean system. This, of course, is the standard GPU. I'm not going to take this out because I had some requests saying I want to see if it works with both GPUs. So I'm going to keep this one in there. So you got 4 mini 8-pin ports right there. So let's get this guy and clip it in. Easy as. 1 and 2. Next up, I'm going to get my Phillips head screwdriver and just unscrew this one. I guess you can also use your thumb, but it's a lot easier using a driver. This comes out. I'm going to unlock the PCIe's using this lock switch, and it's time to see how many ports does this guy take. It takes 2. I'm going to put it right next to the 580X, pulling out these brackets. Gotta say, very black, very gorgeous, beautiful design, colored. You get value for money for this kit. Don't laugh, you actually do. If you're into the world of fashion, getting something this beautiful is not cheap. It's very custom. And I believe just slotted right in, very simple. Very simple maneuver. So I'm gonna just plug in now the 8 pins, slot it into the side. Guess to make it slightly more balanced, I'm just gonna lock this in. This one I'll screw in with my thumb. And this one, because it's further away, I'll just use this driver. You got push down, then screw. and then put the second connector in. Just a bit of twisting, be a bit firm with it, and boom, it is in. That was as simple as GPU installation. Everything is locked into place. This guy's locked into place. So I'll lift it back up. Oh yeah. Big fella back in town. And just remember to line up the case back in the right orientation, making sure that the holes at the top match the holes of the top of the case, and it should just slide in. Okay, we've got a cable. It's a tight fit, tight squeeze, I've got to say. So there were a bit of cables on the outside stopping the case from locking, but I just nipped it in and it fit. So that's that. All right, let's turn this bad boy on for the first time. It's launching up. One thing I'd say is I like to be able to see my components running before closing the case, but unfortunately you can't do that. With this case, the case needs to be on it for you to see what's going on. I see a light flashing, so hopefully we're gonna get something on the screen. I've plugged in the HDMI into the Vega 64. Yep, we got something on the screen. We've got a notification. It says PCIe card attention. The installed PCI cards are not arranged in the optimal configuration. It's saying I've plugged it in into an 8X, not a 16X. So I got used the port above it. I'm gonna have to do it again. All right, so unplug it all again. So I have put it in to the PCI slot over here, whereas I should have been putting it into this one. This is the X16, which is right next to the MPX slot. So that's how you can differentiate an X8 with an X16. I'm just gonna put the cables in the top one rather than the bottom one, because the bottom one is for this guy and the top one is for this guy. Otherwise, you know, there's too much extensioning having to be done. So it's 2 slots away from the other GPU. So these 2 slots is where it's going to slot in. There you go. You should feel it pump in. Now it's in. You can lock it into place. Lock that guy in and this guy as well. Then I'll put this guy in. Just the same as before. In. Okay, we got our GPU in for the second time in the correct slot this time. And now it's time to close the lid and try it out. The cables, they do tug. Just need to push it in. And it does slot into place. Boom, boom, boom. Let me say wayo. All right, now we've put it in the right slot. Let's turn it on. Lights are on. Will we get something on the screen? In for the second time, and we've got no error messages, so we're ready to rock hardcore. Let's get Geekbench 5 up and running again. Compute test, metal. What difference will putting it in the right slot make? So we are about the same score as an NVIDIA Titan X, above a Radeon 7, but lower than the Vega 64s that you get in an iMac Pro, which is disappointing because I know the graphics card I've got can perform a lot better, but I guess the drivers out there limits us to a Titan X. Okay, now I want to jump into Final Cut Pro. I want to see if having a Vega 64 improves our H.264 playback issues that we were having. Previously I tested it against a MacBook Pro, and the MacBook Pro was handling multicam H.264 like a beast, and the Mac Pro was struggling. Let's see if there's any special routines. So you see right there, we're still struggling to decode H.264 footage. So even if we had the Vega 2 Duos and all those kind of beefy graphics cards, this is a CPU limitation, or hopefully just something we can easily fix in software. Previously, the highest I could do was 10 film grains on my 2018 MacBook Pro in High Sierra via an eGPU on this Vega 64. Obviously, with updates, Catalina, all that kind of stuff, things have slowed down. So the most I could do with an eGPU is 6. We're going to try 8. This is 8 film grain effects. And look at it right there. It has handled 8 film grain effects when it's directly plugged into the Mac Pro. And that's more than what the 5500M graphics can do. That's more than the 580X can do. Can it do 10? This was previously the highest we could do in High Sierra on a MacBook Pro. And it's rocking it. I can hear a tiny bit of core whine coming out of that Vega 64 at this intensity. But it's rocked it, no drop frames. So this is good for performance. We've pretty much almost doubled of 580X already. We're going to try 12. If we can do 12, that is a doubling of performance, because the most a 580X could do was 6. So let's see, can we do 12? And it is still handling the rendering in real time of 12 film grain effects on its Vega 64. So we've already doubled our Final Cut Pro rendering performance by switching out the 580X to a Vega 64. Now let's go crazy. We're gonna try 16. Previously, I could only do 16 if I had a Radeon VII card inside an eGPU on a 2018 MacBook Pro in Mojave. Yeah, it worked back then, last year. Now, of course, you can't do that stuff. They've slowed it right down. But let's see if we can do 16 film grain effects. Nah. So the most we can do is around 12, which is twice as much as the graphics inside this 16-incher and twice as much as the 580X. So that is a massive, massive improvement if you're considering this GPU. With the 580X, it took around 45 seconds, 39 seconds. So we have improved our rendering. We've gone from 45 to 39. That's a 15% improvement. Okay, it's not massive, but it's progress. We're on the right path. And considering we can now render a real time twice the amount of effects we could previously do with a 580X, and this is only a 500 Australian dollar upgrade, I'd say this is a good GPU to get if you're interested in the world of video editing. Previously, we'd only get around 13 to 20 frames a second. So over here, still getting 13 frames a second, 16, yeah. So Maya 3D modeling doesn't improve whatsoever in this scenario. This is purely a CPU bottleneck. Maybe a 12 core, 16 core, or an i9 will sort you out. So what I'm gonna do right now, I'm gonna go a bit off script. I just wanna see, will this graphics card work in bootcamp, or will I have to do some crazy driver situation like what it says on the website? So I'm looking at the frame rate here. I don't think it's actually utilizing Vega 64 at the moment. Yeah, it's got it as a Microsoft Basic Display driver. So what I'm gonna do is, I'm gonna see if I can install the Vega 64 drivers manually myself. And it is installing the drivers I've got from bootcampdrivers.com, November. And it looks like I've got the Vega 64 drivers installed. Yep, things are much faster. It has disabled my 580X. It says it's warning, not usable, which is fine. Don't plan on using it anyway. Now previously in Time Spy over in 3D Mark, we got a score of around 4,000, primarily due to the 580X being a bit slow. Look at that right there, 7,193 points. We've gone from 4,000 to 7,000 with a simple GPU upgrade. I gotta say, I think that's a really good score. It's a great score. Definitely worth it, definitely worth doing. Only 500 Australian dollars, very, very cheap graphics card, and you're pretty much doubling the performance of your system. All right, hope you found this video useful. If you have any questions, feel free to drop a comment in the comment section below, and I hope you guys enjoyed the show. Time to do some gaming. Yeah.